Welcome to the lecture on what makes news news. The question today is we're looking at news elements and we're asking really how do we define news? How do editors and producers look at something and decide it's news? Many times in today's medium, I will look at stories online and I will see people who make comments down at the bottom say things like, how is this even a news story? How is this even news, etc., etc.? Well, because it fit one of these 7 things that I'm going to show you today. Now, let's start off by asking this question. What makes a story interesting to readers? Keep in mind that everybody's different. Just because something is fascinating or interesting to me or to you, it may be absolutely boring to somebody else. Still, the following news figures or values kind of play a role most prominently in stories that qualify as news. So let's go ahead and take a look at those one at a time. First, we have impact. This means, what does that story mean to readers? Will it have an effect on their lives or their pocketbooks? Just keep in mind, the bigger the consequences, the bigger the story needs to be. We always ask questions in Wildcat News class and also in yearbook. When we look at the impact of stories, we always answer the question as best as we can. Why should students care? How does this impact students? If it doesn't impact someone, they will be less likely to actually read the story or even care about its content. Next is immediacy, or we also call this timeliness from time to time. Has the story just happened? Is it about to happen? Timeliness is crucial, especially when you're competing against other media. An example I've used in classes in the past is the fire in 2009 here at the high school. We did not have our news website. We simply just had a print edition. The print edition didn't come out for another 4 weeks after the fire. Well, at that point, the story was already not immediate. Everybody already knew that there was a fire, and everybody already knew how it started. So what we needed to do at the time was look at stories on how students and teachers were being impacted by the aftermath of the fire, because those stories were more immediate and closer to the actual event. Next is proximity. How close is the story physically to the community in which the paper is coming out or the story is being told? Obviously, events closer to home will matter more to readers than events in other cities, states, or countries. Sometimes international news stories, for example, what's taking place in Syria right now with their civil war and U.S. involvement, may actually override this proximity. Primarily, we're looking at how does it impact us. For example, when the school shooting happened at the elementary school in Newton, Connecticut, that's not really going to make news here at Harrisonville High School. However, if there was, God forbid, a school shooting at Belton High School here in Kansas City, just north of Harrisonville, well, now proximity is going to play more of a role, and that story is going to become more and more important. The next one is prominence. Does this story involve a well-known public figure or celebrity? If so, readers are bound to be more interested or curious, unfortunately. And yes, I added that last one because the reason we're talking about Miley Cyrus right now in the news is because she is a celebrity and is more of a prominent person. At the high school level, teachers and administrators are obviously more prominent, but students who play more of a leadership role, like the president of the student body, would be more prominent than an average student. The next element is novelty. Is something new, odd, or surprising going on? There's an old saying in news, when dog bites man, that's not really a story. But when man bites a dog, now all of a sudden we've got a story because that's odd. It doesn't really happen that often, and people are going to wonder, why in the world did that man bite a dog? Readers enjoy news that is surprising and unexpected. If you'd like to be entertained at some point, go over to Google or Yahoo News, and all you have to do is look at the odd section or the odd news section. There's usually some pretty entertaining stories in those sections that you can check out. Next is conflict. This is the reason why reality TV is so popular. By the way, guys, side note, reality TV is not really reality TV. It's scripted, and it is put together by producers that choose what goes on there. Conflict means, is there a clash of power, a political battle, a sports rivalry? Usually reporters are constantly on the lookout for dramatic stories to tell. The more conflict there is in a story, the more likely people are to read it. And the last one is emotions. Does the story make us sad? Does it make us happy? Does it make us angry? Readers respond emotionally to human interest stories that are poignant, comical, or inspiring. When was the last time you saw a news story on the news or read something in a newspaper or online that drew an emotional response from you? It probably happens more often than you think. Most of us generally just won't acknowledge it. But most news stories will draw emotions out, and those that draw the most emotions out tend to be the most prominent. So there you go, guys. Those are the news elements, and that's how we help define exactly what is news. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know.